Before sunrise, police arrived at a quiet Scottsdale home. It was still dark outside. Most people were asleep. But inside that house, a woman named Laura Owens was about to wake up to something she never expected. Officers were there with a search warrant. Body cameras were recording. And within minutes, Laura would say a sentence that would spread across the internet. "I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor." But there was one problem. Months earlier, a judge had already determined that Laura had not been pregnant with Clayton's child. So why was she still saying it? Was she still trying to protect a story? Was she convinced of her own version of reality? Or was this the final unraveling of a case that had gone much further than anyone first imagined? This case did not begin with police. It began with a message on LinkedIn. Clayton was a former reality TV star from The Bachelor. After the show, he was trying to move forward with life. He had become a realtor, and when Laura reached out saying she wanted to work with him, it seemed like an opportunity. A simple client message. A possible sale. A normal professional connection. But that one message would eventually lead to court hearings, pregnancy claims, alleged altered medical records, search warrants, criminal charges, bankruptcy filings, and a public legal battle that would last years. And the most chilling part? Clayton says the entire nightmare began after he told Laura one word. No. That word, according to him, changed everything. Because after he rejected her desire to date, Laura allegedly claimed she was pregnant with his baby. Clayton said that was impossible. He said they never had the kind of sexual intercourse that could lead to pregnancy. But Laura did not just make the claim privately. She took it to court. And once court papers were filed, Clayton learned something terrifying. Even if a claim is false, you may still have to spend years and thousands of dollars proving it. By the end of this story, a judge would refer Laura for criminal investigation. A grand jury would indict her. A second alleged victim would be added. And Clayton would say that one courtroom admission made everyone gasp. But before we reach that moment, we need to go back to the beginning. Because the first red flag was not the pregnancy claim. The first red flag was the way Laura entered Clayton's life. And he did not see it clearly until it was already too late. Clayton's life after The Bachelor was complicated. Being on reality TV gives a person attention, but not all attention is good. Some people support you. Some people judge you. Some people feel like they know you, even though they have only seen an edited version of your life on television. So when Laura Owens contacted Clayton through LinkedIn, he did not immediately see danger. She said she wanted to work with his real estate brokerage. Clayton had recently received his real estate license, so this looked like a chance to build his new career. To him, it seemed simple. A new client. A professional opportunity. A normal business conversation. But looking back, Clayton said there were signs. He said Laura was flirtatious early on. He also thought it was odd that she seemed so eager to work specifically with his brokerage. Still, he ignored that discomfort because he wanted the business. And this is where the case begins to shift. The conversation moved from professional to personal. Clayton said that one night, after he had smoked and was not thinking clearly, Laura came over. He admitted that something sexual happened between them, but he strongly denied that intercourse happened. That detail matters. Because later, when Laura claimed she was pregnant, Clayton would say the claim made no biological sense. But the next day, everything still seemed manageable. Clayton showed Laura homes. Then he asked to speak with her in his car. This scene is important. Remember it, because it is the moment Clayton says the entire case truly began. He told Laura that what happened between them was a mistake. He apologized for crossing a professional boundary. He told her it could not happen again. Laura, according to Clayton, did not want it to end there. She allegedly cried. She asked for a chance. She told him they had a connection. She wanted to date. Clayton said no. Then she asked again. He said no again. After several refusals, Clayton became firmer. He told her. No means no. And according to Clayton, Laura's expression changed instantly. He described her face as cold. He said he felt chills. The emotional pleading disappeared, and suddenly the atmosphere felt different. She got out of the car. And Clayton thought. This is not over. At that moment, he had no idea what was coming. But 11 days later, Laura allegedly made the claim that would change his life. She was pregnant. And Clayton was the father. Imagine receiving that message. A person you met once says she is pregnant. She says the baby is yours. You know what happened that night. You know what did not happen. But now she is serious. She is not joking. And soon, she is not only talking to you. She is talking to the court. Clayton said his first reaction was disbelief. He insisted that he and Laura did not have intercourse. But then fear entered his mind. He had been around athletes. He had heard stories of men being trapped into financial or parental responsibility. So even though he believed the pregnancy claim was impossible, he still wondered whether Laura could somehow make the story believable. That fear is what made the claim powerful. Because a claim does not need to be true to cause damage. It only needs to be taken seriously long enough to pull someone into the system. Laura filed a paternity-related case. Clayton said he received legal papers and initially thought about ignoring them. To him, the case was absurd. There were no children. There was no pregnancy connected to him. Why should he respond? Then someone warned him. If you ignore it, the court could enter a default judgment against you. That warning changed everything. Suddenly, Clayton realized that silence could be dangerous. He had to hire lawyers. He had to respond. He had to spend money. He had to defend himself against something he believed should never have reached a courtroom. This is where the suspense of the case becomes different. It is not a dark alley. It is not a missing person case. It is not a violent crime scene. It is paperwork. Court filings. Medical records. Emails. Hearings. Legal fees. Deadlines. And that is what makes it frightening. Because once you are inside the legal machine, innocence alone may not be enough. You need money. You need evidence. You need time. You need a lawyer who can fight. Clayton said the case cost him multiple six figures. He believed he was lucky because he had enough resources to defend himself. But he also asked a disturbing question. What happens to someone who cannot afford to fight? That question would later become one of the biggest themes of his public campaign. But at this stage, Clayton was still trying to prove one basic thing. Laura was not pregnant with his child. Then the civil court reached a major decision. And that decision would open the door to something even bigger. Criminal investigation. The civil case became the turning point. According to the transcript, a judge determined that Laura Owens had not been pregnant with Clayton's child. For Clayton, that ruling was massive. It was the moment he felt vindicated. But the judge did not simply close the case and move on. The judge referred Laura to the Maricopa County Attorney for investigation because of concerns about possible fraud, perjury, and evidence tampering. That referral changed the entire story. This was no longer just a paternity dispute. Now prosecutors were looking at whether Laura had lied under oath. Whether evidence had been altered. Whether the court itself had been misled. And then came the moment Clayton says no one in court could believe. He claimed Laura admitted that she may have altered medical records, a little bit. A little bit. That phrase matters because medical records are not casual notes. In a pregnancy case, medical records are the evidence. They can decide whether a claim is believed or destroyed. So when Clayton said she admitted to changing something, he said everyone in the courtroom gasped. Because once medical evidence becomes questionable, the entire case changes. Now the question is no longer only, was Laura pregnant? The question becomes, what documents were used? Where did they come from? Were they genuine? Were they edited? Were they shown to the court? And who knew? Clayton also claimed Laura sent him material involving a pregnant belly and that it may have actually been connected to her sister. These are serious allegations and should be treated as allegations unless proven in court. But for viewers, this is the moment where the case becomes almost unbelievable. A former bachelor. A claimed pregnancy. A court case. Alleged altered medical records. A judge referring the matter for prosecution. And still, the story was not finished. Because early in 2025, police arrived at Laura's home with a search warrant. That morning would create one of the most viral moments in the case. And Laura's own words on body camera would leave people asking. Why was she still saying she got pregnant by Clayton? In 2025, a grand jury indicted Laura Owens on 7 charges connected to allegations that she had lied about being pregnant with Clayton's child and lied under oath. But then, in November 2025, another indictment came. This time, the case involved a second man, Greg Gillespie. According to the transcript, prosecutors alleged that Laura had made similar pregnancy-related claims involving him. That changed the public perception of the case. Because one disputed claim can be seen as a personal conflict. 2 similar allegations create a different question. Was there a pattern? That question became central to Clayton's view of the case. He believed Laura's actions were not really about money alone. He said he thought the behavior was about control, rejection, and hurting men who did not give her what she wanted. Those are Clayton's opinions, not proven facts in the criminal case. But they explain why he saw the second alleged victim as important. To him, it showed he was not alone. The legal case also became much larger. Laura's trial on the charges involving Clayton had been expected to begin in January 2026, but it was delayed. New charges were added. New lawyers became involved. Her attorney reportedly received around 6,000 pages of disclosure and 16 body camera recordings. That amount of discovery shows how complex the case had become. This was no longer a simple he said she said situation. It involved documents, recordings, court testimony, alleged medical records, multiple alleged victims, bankruptcy questions, and years of online attention. Clayton said he was disappointed by the delay but believed the added charges were a good sign. He thought accountability was getting closer. But legally, Laura remained presumed innocent. She pleaded not guilty. And the state still had to prove its case. That is one of the most important parts of this story. The internet may already have opinions. Clayton may already feel certain. Supporters may already believe they know the truth. But the courtroom has its own process. And that process can be painfully slow. Especially for someone who says they have already spent years fighting. One of the most frightening parts of Clayton's story is not the pregnancy claim itself. It is what came after. The legal bills. Clayton said he spent multiple 6 figures defending himself. Think about that. Even after insisting there was no pregnancy connected to him, even after saying the claim made no sense, he still had to pay lawyers, attend hearings, respond to filings, and protect himself legally. This is where the case becomes relatable in a disturbing way. Because most people do not have unlimited money for lawyers. Most people cannot spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting a claim. And Clayton said that is exactly what scared him. He wondered what would have happened if he had not had the resources to keep going. Would he have been forced to settle? Would he have been trapped by the system? Would people have assumed he was guilty because he could not afford to defend himself? That fear gave the case a bigger meaning for him. He said he was fighting not only for himself, but also for other men who had allegedly gone through similar situations. The transcript also discusses bankruptcy filings involving Laura and her parents. Laura reportedly filed for bankruptcy while still participating in equestrian activities, which drew criticism from people who believed she was avoiding payment of judgments. Her parents also had bankruptcy-related issues. Her father, Ron Owens, was described as a longtime San Francisco radio personality who was battling Parkinson's. There was also discussion of a GoFundMe. Clayton criticized the fundraising, suggesting that even if money was presented as support for medical needs, it could indirectly free up resources for legal costs. That was Clayton's view. But what it shows is how personal the case had become. This was not only a battle in court. It was a battle over reputation. A battle over money. A battle over who was telling the truth. A battle over whether power and resources could delay accountability. And then came the internet. Because once the public began watching, the case became bigger than either Clayton or Laura could fully control. When this case reached the internet, people started investigating everything. Court filings. Body camera footage. Old speeches. Social media posts. Bankruptcy records. Public statements. Family comments. Past relationships. The case became a digital courtroom long before the criminal trial began. Clayton said most of his supporters were women. That surprised some people because the case involved a man accusing a woman of false pregnancy claims. But Clayton made a point to say this was not an anti-woman movement. He said he does not hate women. He said he does not support the idea of attacking women as a group. His message was that people should not automatically believe someone just because of gender. They should wait for facts. He said, "Do not believe all women. Do not believe all men. Believe what is true." That statement became one of the larger themes of the case. For Clayton, the damage came partly because people judged him quickly when the accusations first appeared. Since he had already been a controversial reality TV figure, some people were ready to believe the worst. But as more evidence came out, public opinion shifted. Supporters organized online. They followed hearings. They discussed documents. They pushed for accountability. Clayton also launched a campaign related to Laura Owens' TED Talk, where she had spoken about being mistreated by a man in another situation. According to the transcript, the man connected to that story disputed her account. For Clayton supporters, that TED Talk became part of a bigger question about credibility. Was this another example of a false victim story? Or was it unrelated? That is where internet attention becomes dangerous. Sometimes public pressure helps expose truth. But sometimes it also blends separate events together before a court has ruled on them. In this case, the audience kept growing because every new detail felt like another twist. A former bachelor. An alleged false pregnancy. Courtroom admissions. Search warrants. A second alleged victim. A TED Talk controversy. Bankruptcy filings. A delayed trial. And just when people thought the case was finally moving toward resolution, another delay arrived. Recently, Laura Owens appeared in court for a settlement conference. A plea agreement was on the table. The court was ready to discuss the offer, the possible penalties, and the options available. But Laura did not take the deal at that moment. Her attorney asked for more time to review discovery. For the defense, that could be a normal part of due process. If an attorney has thousands of pages of records and hours of body camera footage, they may argue they need time to prepare properly. But Clayton saw it differently. He called it a delay tactic. He said Laura had a history of delaying, changing lawyers, and stretching proceedings. He said he was tired. And after 3 years of fighting, that exhaustion was clear. This is the part of the case that frustrates viewers because it feels like the ending keeps moving further away. Every time a trial date appears, something changes. New charges. New lawyer. More discovery. More time. More hearings. For Clayton, the case feels obvious. He believes the evidence is clear. He believes Laura admitted enough in court to show guilt. He believes the process should not take this long. But the criminal justice system does not move based on frustration. It moves through procedure. The defendant has rights. The defense has the right to review evidence. The state has to prove its case. The judge has to protect the fairness of the process. And that means even a case that looks clear to the public can still take years. That delay creates suspense, but it also creates pain. Because for Clayton, every new hearing is another reminder of what the allegation cost him. For Laura, every hearing is another step closer to a possible criminal trial. And for the public, every delay leaves one question hanging. Will this case finally reach a verdict? Or will it keep dragging on? This case began with a message. Then came a meeting. Then a rejection. Then a pregnancy claim. Then a lawsuit. Then medical records. Then a judge's finding. Then a criminal referral. Then a search warrant. Then indictments. Then a second alleged victim. Then a delayed trial. What started as a private encounter became a legal storm. And the most haunting question is still simple. Why? Why did Laura allegedly continue with a pregnancy claim after Clayton denied it? Why did the case go as far as court? Why were medical records allegedly altered? Why did the situation continue even after a civil judge found that she had not been pregnant with Clayton's child? And if prosecutors are right, why was there allegedly another man involved in a similar situation? Laura Owens has pleaded not guilty. That matters. She has not been convicted in the criminal case described in the transcript. The court still has to decide what can be proven. But Clayton says the damage is already real. He says he lost time, money, peace, and reputation. He says the accusation forced him into a fight he never should have had to fight. And his warning is larger than his own case. An allegation can change a life before the truth catches up. This case is not only about fame. It is not only about dating. It is not only about pregnancy. It is about evidence. It is about credibility. It is about how slowly truth can move through a system built on paperwork, hearings, delays, and procedure. And it is about the cost of defending yourself when the world is already watching. The final chapter has not been written. Laura still has her defense. Prosecutors still have to prove their case. Clayton still waits for accountability. And viewers are left with a case that feels almost impossible to believe. A former bachelor thought he had met a potential real estate client. Instead, he became part of one of the strangest legal sagas connected to reality television. A case filled with claims, contradictions, courtrooms, police footage, and one unforgettable sentence. I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor. But now, the question is no longer whether that sentence shocked people. The question is whether a jury will believe it.